Hallelujah.
Well, good morning, Mechanicsville. How you doing this morning? This is Don Curtis, and this is another day that the Lord has made for you and for me that we might rejoice in and to be exceedingly glad. Yes, we have reason to be exceedingly glad. Yes, we have reason to rejoice as well. God has done some marvelous, wonderful things on our behalf, and we are discovering more and more as each day go by just how marvelous this great salvation is that God has gifted to you and to me. Good morning to you, Indianapolis, Indiana. Good morning to you, Waldorf, Maryland. Good morning to you. To our listeners in WBR FM radio station in Wegenbarry, England, good morning to you. In fact, all the United Kingdom, London as well, good morning to you. Our listeners in France and Kenya, good morning to you as well. Finland and Israel, good morning to you. Our new listeners in Alexandria, Virginia, Chicago, Illinois. Yes, in Greenbelt, Maryland, good morning to you.
Steadfast and true is your love toward us, daily renewed is your mercy shown us. God of all gods, you're truly amazing, amazing. When you get it, release it to the Lord. Steadfast and true is your love toward us, daily renewed.
Yes, good morning to our Heart Radio listeners. Good morning to our TuneIn Radio listeners as well, and Radio Public listeners. Good morning to you.
That's who he is. You declare it. Amazing. Amazing. Come on, let's talk about his love and his grace. It's an everlasting love. Yes. It's sufficient.
Yes, and those in Graysonville, Maryland, good morning to you.
Leads us straight to freedom.
Washington, D.C., good morning to you on the West Coast. In San Jose, California, good morning to you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Redmond, Washington, good morning to you as well.
Let's declare it together. Amazing. Hallelujah. Everybody sing steadfast. Is your love toward us.
Yes, our listeners in Spain, good morning to you. And north of the border in Canada, good morning to you as well. Yes, South Africa, good morning to you. India, good morning to you.
Make no doubt about it. He's amazing. Come on. Amazing. Hallelujah.
Yeah, we have some more listeners and new listeners in India. Good morning to you today.
Everlasting love. Your grace is sufficient for us. Your truth leads us to freedom. I dare you to declare it as an offering to him. I dare you to lift it up to him in the name of the Lord. I can hardly wait till that day when I see your face. Oh, I'm sure I'll say, I can only imagine what I'll say. Yeah, that's the God we serve. I tell you today, he is amazing. Hallelujah. Anybody know who he is tonight? Amazing. Come on, declare in the name of Jesus, you're amazing, God. Amazing. Hallelujah. He's amazing. Yes, he is. Amazing. Tell somebody, the word of the Lord says we overcome by our testimony. Tell somebody, my God is amazing. He's strong and mighty. He's faithful and true. Amazing. Hallelujah to Jesus. And we celebrate him in this place. So amazing. Hallelujah. He's amazing. He's amazing. Amazing. That's the God we serve. I love him so much. I love him so much. Amazing. Hallelujah. Celebrate him where you are. He's amazing. Amazing. Hallelujah, Jesus. And we
Yes, he is amazing. Yes. Yeah, I hope you're discovering just how amazing Jesus Christ is, how amazing God our Father is, how amazing this gospel is, how amazing this great salvation is that God has gifted to you and to me. How amazing this life is. Yes, how amazing you are. Yeah, for you and I to really contemplate and to accept the fact that we were made and created in the image and likeness of God. That there is something distinctly unique about you that sets you apart from all of creation. That there is no evolutionary evidence whatsoever. We didn't evolve from a lower level of life into a higher level of life. We didn't evolve from a simple one-cell amoeba into the vast complexity that exists now in these human bodies that we have. And then if we really get real deep about it, we are spirit beings. We are not flesh and blood only. And if we limit ourselves just to our bodily functions and to our bodily makeup, we're missing the whole point about who we really are. When someone loses a limb, they're not less of a person because of that. No, their spirit is still there, still intact. And so there is this invisible part of us. In fact, our body is one part, our soul is another part, and our spirit is a third part. And two out of those three are all non-physical. Non-physical at all. So you didn't evolve from some lower form. I didn't evolve from no lower form either. We were made and created in the image and the likeness of God, and we were created for this tremendous, abundant life that he has gifted to you and to me, and to make it available to us. And not only that, but the Bible says that, look, behold what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us, that now, today, yes, this day, this particular day, we are called by God his sons and his daughters. And it goes on and says, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. And this has nothing to do with the physical part of us at all. This has to deal with the real essence of who you are and who I am. And so, yes, amazing, no question about it, none whatsoever. And I'm excited about you and I continuing on in our journey of responding to this great invitation that Jesus has given to every single one of us to come and learn about him. And we're at this point now in the Gospel of John where he's about ready to really do some extensive teaching and sharing with his disciples, because he's about ready to be crucified. He's about ready to leave. He knows what's going to happen. They have no idea. And he is preparing them. And so he is really sharing with them. And these are just so critical, important, and I'm going to tell you, power-packed and rich words and discussions that he has with his disciples as he is preparing them for his departure. He knows that their hopes are going to be dashed because they're thinking of victory in a certain way, in a certain area. They're thinking deliverance from their enemies and whatnot is going to be a physical one, relieving them from the domination of the Roman Empire. And he knows that all of their hopes and desires and aspirations, everything they were trusting and hoping that was going to happen, was going to come falling down, because he is meeting a most dry need that they have no idea about. He's about ready to do something that they have no real understanding about at all. And so he is now preparing them for that. And he really wants them to grab hold of this. And he knows that even though he is sharing all this with them, that not much is going to really stick at all. But he wants them to be assured, so when these things come to pass, they'll know that, wait a minute, he told us about that. So here we are now. We're closing out the end part of John chapter 13, and it's going to move right into 14, 15, 16, 17. Those chapters all together just as a ongoing discussion that he has with his disciples after Judas now has left the upper room and he's gone now to do his betrayal. And so now Jesus is left with the remaining 11, and he's just sharing with them. He's pouring out not so much his heart from the standpoint of the emotional part of it, but he's just sharing with them what is about to happen, and he is encouraging them and giving them something that they can hold on to, but he knows that they don't have the wherewithal really to understand this. And so he starts off in verse 33 by saying, "Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You shall seek me, and as I said unto the Jews, where I go you cannot come, so now I say to you." He calls them little children, even though some of them may have been even older than him from a chronological standpoint, but he refers to them as little children. In other words, they really don't have an understanding of what's going on. They lack perception. They lack real wisdom and knowledge and understanding. They're little children, not only children, but little children, have no comprehension really of what's going on around and that sort of thing. And so he addresses them that way, and that's an endearment kind of a title that he gives to these grown men. Some have left families to come and to follow him, and he refers to them as little children. He's really sharing the heart of our Father with them. Little children, little children, little children, yet a little while I'm with you. Yes, you shall seek me. You'll be wondering about me. You'll be trying to find out where I'm at. And as I said unto the Jews, where I go, you cannot come. I'm going to a place that you just cannot go at this point in time. It's an amazing thing to really contemplate that Jesus said, look, I've come from a different place. I've come from above, you're from beneath. And he says, where I'm going, you can't come right now. It's not to you to be able to come. Even if you were to die right alongside me, you wouldn't be able to come to where I'm going, not right now. And he says unto them, look, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. Yes, he is sharing with them, this is just the basis. This is just the foundational truth about this new life, about where he is going to and where he has come from. And he's just sharing that this is the entry. This is the door, so to speak. This is the entry into this whole new kingdom of God that I have been speaking to you about, this new relationship with God our Father. He lays down this basic that they are not even able to grab hold of, to understand. They don't have the wherewithal to be able to do this. In fact, no one does. You don't, and I don't either. None of us are able to love one another the same way that Jesus Christ has loved us. It's just an impossibility. And he is setting them up just like he sets up us as well from this standpoint. You and I get into a place in our understanding and our acknowledging the fact that despite all of our desires to actually live like this and to walk like this, to be like this, that we find in ourselves the inability, there is not the substance necessary on the inside of us to be able to do this very basic, this elementary, this doorway commandment. A new commandment, he says, I give unto you. Not that you do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. That's difficult enough as it is. But he notches it up and takes it to a place that is new because no one has ever known the greatness of his love toward us. And he's about ready to demonstrate it by his wicked crucifixion, his wicked death on your behalf and on my behalf. And this is what this new commandment is really all about, that you and I would love one another, and this one another is everybody, that and as I have loved you, that you also love one another. He emphasized this love that we have and to have one to another. And he said this is the only barometer. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples if you have love one to another. If you have this kind of agape love. And I'm again emphasizing the point that without Christ in us, without him actually doing this, actually providing this, actually doing the loving through us, you and I, none of us are able to do it. It's just not possible at all. Yes. This is this radical love that many have talked about, preached about. This radical love that nobody has. Yes, what the world needs now is this radical love, but guess what? Nobody has it. Nobody has this in and of themselves. The only one who has this is God himself. He is the only one who has given up his only begotten Son for his enemies. He's the only one who continues to renew his grace and mercy towards you and me. Yeah, he is the only one who is loving us radically the way he does. Yes. Yes. And that's why even after his resurrection, and he appears to his disciples and whatnot, and after they can see and touch and know and feel that he is truly alive again, he says, now don't tell anybody. You really can't preach this. You really can't teach this until you receive power from on high. And this power from on high is more than just the ability to be able to preach and teach, but it's also the ability to be able to live it. To be able to have this kind of love on the inside of us. Nobody has it. No man has it. No woman has it. No human being has this kind of love at all. That's why Jesus would say to Nicodemus, you've got to be born again. This agape love can only happen by a spiritual rebirth, a born again, a being birthed again by the Spirit of God himself. This is a miracle that God has got to do in your heart and my heart. Yes, he said, this is my covenant. I'll give you a new heart, and my commandments will be in you. It'll be in your heart. It'll be written in your heart. Yes. It'll be natural. It won't be a struggle at all. It was no struggle for Jesus. And you and I will see later on as he's being nailed to the cross, as the spikes are being driven into his hands. His attitude towards even the men who are crucifying him is a spirit of forgiveness. This is agape love on full display. Not after he's thought about it and reconciled and said, well, maybe I need to do this. I really don't want to, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have to do it. That's not the attitude that he had. No, he said, Father, forgive them. He's already forgiven them, even though they didn't even ask. They never asked for it. Nobody ever asked for it. As they were crucifying him, as they were nailing him to the cross, they didn't ask him to forgive them as they were doing that. But guess what? This is the kind of love that he has for us, the kind of love he has for you, the kind of love he has for me. And guess what? If this is the kind of love that is on the inside of you and on the inside of me, guess what? You and I are not waiting for anybody to ask for forgiveness. You and I automatically, just naturally forgive because, hey, we can't help it. That's who we are. We are made in his image. We are made in his likeness. That's the way God is. And that's the way we find ourselves being as well. That's what this new creation is all about. If any man be in Christ, be in the midst of this agape, be in this kind of love, this radical kind of love, he is a whole new creation. And he said, look, by this shall all men know. This is how you tell whether or not you are a child of God, whether or not you determine whether or not you are one of his disciples, one of his followers, one of his learners. He said, look, I want to let you know, this is how all men will know that you are my disciples if you have this kind of agape, no strings attached whatsoever, always forgiving whether or not people ask for or not kind of love one to another. Yeah. How do you deal with your so-called enemies? Yes. How do you respond to them? How do you treat them? What's your attitude towards them? Is it agape love, or is it just the way normal human beings are without the love of God on the inside of them, activating them and actually loving them through? How is it? What's your attitude? What's your response? What naturally pops up in you? Yeah, we're not talking about something that you work up, something that you struggle with. We're talking about something that's just natural, because this is the natural life of this new creation. That's what it's like. It's natural. It's not something you got to work up. It's just natural. It's just It's just the way it is. It's an easy commandment. That's why he said, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. And it went over their heads. Simon Peter said unto him, Lord, where goest thou? Yeah, this tremendous new new commandment was not anything that was on his mind at all. He lightly set that aside and said, I heard you say something about you going somewhere and we can't come. And that's what his question was all about. He said, Lord, where are you going? Where are you going? And Jesus knew that this was their main concern, that he was about ready to leave them. They weren't ready for this. They had been close to him. They had been following him. They had given up all this in order to follow him, and they were expecting that he was going to bring in a whole new kingdom, that he was going to rule and reign, and they had this idea that they were going to rule and reign with him. You remember they had that discussion about who was going to be on the right hand, who was going to be on the left hand? Yeah. So Peter wanted to know, where you going? Where you going? And Jesus answered him, where I go, you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterwards. And Peter said unto him, Lord, why cannot I follow you now? What do you mean we can't follow you now? I will lay down my life for your sake. What you mean that we can't go where you're going right now? We're ready to fight for you. You don't have to die. You don't have to be turned over to the hands of sinful men. You don't have to be crucified. You don't have to go through all that. No. He said, I'll lay down my life. This is Peter talking now. I will lay down my life for your sake. And Jesus answered him, and even though he had given this new commandment, even though that's what he had shared with them, he said, will thou lay down your life for my sake? He said, you really think that's what you're able to do? You think that's what you will do? He said, truly, truly, I say to you, the cock shall not crow till you have denied me, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 times. I know where your mind is at, Peter. I even know where your heart is at. But your heart is not as strong as you think it is. Your commitment to me is not as tough as you think it is. You're not as committed to me as you think you are. You're ready to lay down your life for me. But he said, will you really do that? He said, I already know. In fact, he says, truly, truly, I know this, that the cock shall not crow until you've denied me 3 times. And Jesus goes right on into chapter 14, and he says, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know the way, you know it. Jesus continued on, said, after he done sort of sized Peter up somewhat to let him know, look, you're going to deny me 3 times. He's speaking to all of them now, and he says, let not your heart be troubled. I know that you're having some anticipation. I know that you'll be in trouble right now because all of what you had thought was going to happen, it's not going to happen like that. There is something vastly different and radically different that is in front of me that you don't have any idea about. And I know it's going to dash all of your hopes and your dreams and what you were anticipating. But he says, look, don't let your heart be troubled. I love that about God. I love that about his concern for you and for me. So even this day, he tells you and me, don't let your heart be troubled. Whatever the trouble is, whatever the confusion is, whatever the experiences are, whatever the disappointment may be, whatever may be facing you right now, whatever you might be in the midst of right now, whatever you're going through, God's saying to you and to me is to let not your heart be troubled. In other words, your heart can trouble you. Yeah, the essence, really where you're at, who you really are, can cause some trouble in you. This is beyond situations and circumstances, but it affects you deep down. It's a deep-seated issue and concern, and he says, let not your heart be troubled. You said, you believe in God, believe also in me. He said, if you have any concept about God, if you have any faith in him whatsoever, if you trust him any bit at all, he said, have faith in me. I'm about ready to do something on your behalf that you can't fully comprehend and understand. He said, but I want you to know that in my Father's house are many mansions. There are many fabulous places of abode, places that you can exist in the presence of my Father that I refer to as mansions. Yes. He's not talking about a 6-bedroom house. He's talking about a place of existence, a place of being that is just so magnificent that he referred to them as mansions. And there are many places of experiencing the presence of God. He said, if it were not so, I would have told you. He said, now I'm going. You don't know where I'm going, and you can't go with me right now, but I'm going to let you know this, that where I am going, I'm going there to prepare a place for you. Yes, a prepared place for you. And a prepared place for me. Yes. A place of existence that far exceeds the place where you are right now and the place where I am right now. It's a whole new, different kind of existence, a whole new life, a whole new paradigm. Remember, Jesus said, I am from above and you are from beneath, and he's going back to above so that in that place that is above, that he might prepare a place for you. You and I don't know what that above is like at all. We've only had the experiences of living down here, living below. Yes, but there is a place above where he's from that he is preparing for you and for me. And he says, now I'm going to do that. And if I go and prepare a place for you, guess what? I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you might be also. And where I'm going, you know, and the way you know. Yes. He said, look, I'm going to receive you so that where I am, there you may be also. God desires for you and I to be where he's at. Yes, to be a part of his presence. We've been made partakers of his divine nature. That's what is happening. That's what happens after this death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. There's a whole multitude of things that just change. Everything changes. Our hope, our future, everything about you and about me takes a radical change because of what Jesus is about to accomplish, and his disciples have no idea what that's all about, and so he's preparing them, and we're just learning with them as we go along in chapters 14, 15, 16, and 17, as Jesus just goes into a long teaching mode, encouraging them, and it'll be an encouragement to you and to me as well. It's amazing. Yes, it is. Good morning to you.
Steadfast and true is your love toward.
I'm so grateful that God's love for you is steadfast, that is unmovable, that it endures whatever you're going through. Just hold on to this knowledge that Jesus loves you daily, the Father loves you, and his love is steadfast for you. Yes, it is. It's unshakable.
Steadfast and true is your love toward. Till every new That's who he is. You declare it. Amazing.
Amazing.
Come on, let's talk about his love and his grace. It's an everlasting love.
Everlasting love.
Yes. It's sufficient. And this truth leads us straight to freedom. Amazing.
Amazing.
That's who the Lord is. Come on, let's declare it together.
Amazing.
Hallelujah. Everybody sing steadfast.
Steadfast and true.
Is your love toward us.
Love toward
Daily
us.
renewed.
Daily renewed.
Hallelujah.
Your mercy shown
He's the God of all gods.
God of all gods.
He's truly amazing.
Amazing.
Make no doubt about it. He's amazing. Come on.
Amazing.
Hallelujah. Oh, your love is an everlasting love.
Everlasting love.
Your grace is sufficient for us. Your truth leads us to freedom. Oh, your love is an everlasting love.
Everlasting love.
Your grace is sufficient for us.
Sufficient for us.
And your truth, it leads us to freedom. Hallelujah, amazing. He's a mighty God. He's a great King above all kings. Is anybody's testimony that God's grace is sufficient for every situation? I dare you to declare it as an offering to Him. I dare you to lift it up to Him in the name of the Lord. I can hardly wait till that day when I see your face. Oh, I'm sure I'll say I can only imagine